Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about figurative language. You should already know some things about figurative language from elementary school, but we're going to kind of review and maybe talk about some ones that you don't know today. So our lesson goal is I will recognize the main types of figurative language and their definitions. Have you ever had trouble explaining what it is you really mean? Like your words just aren't precise enough? People kind of get what you're saying, but they don't understand the emotion of what you're saying or the intensity of what you're saying. Do you wish that you had a quick and effective way to capture your ideas? Figurative language can help. So let's brainstorm. What is figurative language? What do you already know about figurative language? Can you think of any examples of figurative language? Figurative language is language that uses words and phrases in a way that's different than the literal meaning. So if I take it at face value, it means one thing, but it actually means something else. The literal words don't have all the meaning. Writers use figurative language to quickly and easily create pictures in the reader's mind. It makes our writing more vivid. It makes it stand out to the reader. It makes them feel the emotions we want them to experience and makes them be able to picture what it is we're talking about. So, for instance, if I say, my sister is a bear in the morning, can you picture the way she acts? Kind of grumpy, like she's stumbling around and she growls at you, like not actually growls, but she kind of talks like she's growling. She's real snappish. That's figurative language. My sister is a bear in the morning is an example of a metaphor. And the metaphor captures the idea of how she's acting. It lets us think of, being grumpy and stumbling around and making a lot of noises without having a long description. She's snarly, she's cranky, she's scary. If I say, the chair wrapped me in a hug, what am I saying about the chair? Because this is not Beauty and the Beast. It does not mean that the chair crossed its arms around me and actually gave me a hug. What am I saying about the chair? Well, I might be saying that the chair is comforting. It's friendly feeling. Maybe it's just comfortable. So like when I sit down, I feel like I'm being hugged because I'm being surrounded by something soft and warm on all sides. That's an example of personification. I'm taking an inanimate object and giving it human qualities. If I say, my father went all Dumbledore on me, what am I saying about my father, about the situation? Well, Dumbledore, that's a reference to Harry Potter, and if we know Harry Potter, we know who the character Dumbledore is. We know that he's this wise old man with a gray beard, and like his whole point in the story is he gives a lot of life advice and he teaches the main characters things. And so maybe it means that your father stopped and gave you wise advice. He challenged you to do better based on his life experience. That's an allusion because it's a reference to another piece of popular literature. It's an allusion because it references Harry Potter. Did you know there's lots of types of figurative language that we can use? How many kinds can you think of? Okay, you got that number in hand? Let's see how many I have compared to how many you have. Our first type of figurative language is alliteration. Alliteration is when an author or poet repeats the beginning sound of a word. While I nodded, nearly napping. What's the purpose of this alliteration? It kind of like lulls us in with the narrator. While I nodded, nearly napping. All those N sounds at the beginning of the word kind of blend together, and it kind of like pulls us along like we're kind of sleepy and we're just kind of like going with the flow. While I nodded, nearly napping. Again, alliteration is when you're repeating the beginning sound of a word. What about allusion? An allusion is a reference to something outside a literary work. It can be to history, mythology, the Bible, or other literature. So this one you may not know. He's my Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy is a character from a really famous old-timey novel called Pride and Prejudice. There's a ton of movie adaptations. The 2005 adaptation is one of my favorite movies ever. But Mr. Darcy is like the romantic lead in that movie. So if you're saying he's my Mr. Darcy, you're letting us know that he's like the perfect guy for you. It's an allusion, it's a reference, and it lets us know by comparing to Mr. Darcy that this is your perfect guy. Hyperbole. He ate a mountain of food. Hyperbole is an exaggeration of an idea to make a point or to emphasize the size of something. So you can't literally eat a mountain of food. No human being could survive that. No, not even you. But what's the purpose of saying he ate a mountain of food? Well, in our mind's eye, if we picture a mountain of food and we picture how much food that would be, it kind of gives us an idea of how much the narrator thinks the other character is eating. An idiom is a word or phrase that we don't take literally. It's like a cultural phrase most of the time. So it belongs to like everybody in a culture or a society will know that phrase and know that it has like a secret meaning. So if I say she's driving me up the wall, you're not literally driving the car up the wall. We know as a group that that idiom means she's driving me crazy. Imagery is the use of descriptive language that appeals to the senses and creates a picture in the reader's mind. So, like an acrobat, he dips and weaves. What's the purpose of the imagery? It's to help us picture it in our mind's eye. But it's not just pictures and it's not just what we can see. It's all five senses. See, hear, taste, touch, or smell. All fall under imagery. Irony is the use of words that convey a meaning that's the opposite of the literal one. So she's as friendly as a rattlesnake. Rattlesnakes are not friendly. So if we say she's as friendly as a rattlesnake, that's irony, and it's showing us that she's not actually friendly at all. A metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things, not using like or as. So if I talk about she had a light bulb moment, I don't mean that a light bulb literally went off over her head. I mean that she had a bright idea. Onomatopoeia is when an author or poet uses a word to represent a sound or a noise. So one of my favorite examples is from Edgar Allan Poe's The Bells. And that's actually kind of a creepy poem, so I suggest you read it if you're into creepy. But, oh, the bells, the bells, the bells, how they clang and clash and roar. You can hear in your mind's eye how loud and how insistent those bells are. So an onomatopoeia is a sound word. It helps us hear what's going on. An oxymoron is the side-by-side placement of apparently contradictory terms. What that means is two words that shouldn't go together, but when you put them side by side, they have their own unique meaning. Like Walking Dead. Dead people aren't supposed to walk, but if you say Walking Dead, we know that means a zombie. Or if I say jumbo shrimp, shrimp means small, jumbo means huge. It has its own meaning when you put them side by side, but those two words are still opposites. They're contradictory. Personification is when an idea, a thing, or an animal acts like a human when it's not a human. So if I say the flowers turned their faces towards the sun, the flowers don't have a human face. They can't physically make the decision to turn like a human would, but we're describing the action they take as if they were human. A simile is a comparison between two unlike things that uses like or as. So if I say he's as sly as a fox, foxes have a reputation in in symbolism, in mythology, for being real clever and tricky and being able to get out of traps. So if I say he's as sly as a fox, I'm comparing him to something as clever as a fox is. A symbol is something that's used to represent something else. For instance, a dove, a lot of the time, is a symbol of peace. That is a visual shorthand. So if we see a red rose, we think romance. We see a lion, we think bravery. We see a dove, we think peace. Do you think you got them all? If not, you can watch this again, or you can read the notes that are in Canvas, but now it's time to practice.